any individual QC person that's just looking at the report itself, it actually looks like a pretty decent appraisal. But the devil is in the details. And the details are this appraiser ignored sales that he should have used and used sales that he shouldn't have used.
Originating from deep inside the Rocky Mountains, transported through the power of the internet, and arriving inside your tiny earbuds. It's the Appraiser Coach Podcast.
Minisode.
Appraisers. I know what the temptation is, and I know that we all have this situation that we've got to deal with on a regular basis, but can we stop being stupid? Stop playing games with value. I want to remind you we are sponsored by ANOW software. ANOW, of course, is the software that I use to manage everything that goes on in my appraisal office, and you should too. Check them out. Go to anow.com/coach. One more time. It's anow.com/coach. Okay, folks. I don't see as much of it as I did previous to HVCC, previous to the 2008 debacle, but I still see it. I saw it today. It's why I'm jumping on the microphone today. And, first of all, let me start out by saying this. There might be some that would criticize this episode and say, Dustin, don't air your dirty laundry, appraiser's dirty laundry on a public forum. I get that. Okay. First of all, this is not really a public forum. I have thousands of listeners, and I would say very, very few of them are not appraisers. Most of them are appraisers. I'm talking to appraisers. Second of all, and this is the most important part, I'm not talking to appraisers in general today. I'm talking to a few bad apples, and I want to stress that. I'm talking to a few bad apples out there who make the rest of us look bad, and it's got to stop. It's got to stop. Okay, here's the scenario. You're in a situation where, hey, listen, you want volume. You want to be the go-to gal, the go-to guy for the local mortgage company, the local bank, right? And you want to keep them happy. And though they don't specifically say, hey, we need $200,000 on this deal to make the deal work, okay, that would be flat out wrong with regard to the lending and regulation rules that we all abide by. There's still the wink, wink, nod, nod of, hey, the higher you come in, the more volume we're going to send you, right? And maybe it's a spillover from the way things used to be. I don't know. I really don't know what it is. I honestly don't understand the mindset of some of these appraisers, but it's driving me crazy. Okay, it's driving me crazy because here's the thing. You're not helping yourself. Maybe in the short term, sure. Okay. Maybe in the short term, you're helping yourself in the sense that man, you're sure the liked appraiser in the area because, that guy will hit your number. But I'll tell you, in the long run, you are hurting yourself, you're hurting the business, you're hurting your colleagues, and you're hurting the valuation profession. And I don't think I can emphasize that enough. Stop playing games. Okay, it's going to come back on you. It truly will. Let me give you a scenario. Okay, let me give you a real life. The reason I jumped on the microphone today, I just got done with not an official, but an unofficial review of a prior report. Here's what happened. I was hired to do an appraisal for a local bank. And I went out, I did the inspection, chose the comparables accordingly, made adjustments that I felt were supportable, turned the appraisal in, and I'm going to use hypothetical numbers because I want to keep everything confidential here. But let's just say that I came in at $150,000. Okay, so my value is $150,000. It wasn't, but for hypothetical purposes, my value was $150,000. And I'm going to keep this ratio-wise the same as it was. I'm just not going to give you the actual numbers. Okay. Went through the regular quality control checks and everything else, got it sent in, went through the process. And within an hour of turning this in, my office got a call from the lender stating, what in the world is going on? Your guy came in at $150,000. We just had an appraisal done not quite a year ago for $250,000. Okay. 40% difference. Huge. And the process basically went like this. My assistant, who is well-trained in regulation and what needs to be done in an appraisal office, basically said, well, if we can get permission from the lender, from the client, if you will, then we can talk value. And if you want to share information about that prior report, fine. That there's nothing wrong with that. We'll take a look at it and see why there's a difference. We went through the channels. We went through the proper steps to make sure we were in guidelines, if you will. Got written permission from the client that we were able to look at this old appraisal. Okay. Now, I did not do an official review. I want to state that very emphatically. But let me tell you the process that just happened to me just a few minutes ago before I got on the microphone. I opened up the report, and at first glance, I thought, wow, this is actually a really good report. It's lots of verbiage. I see lots of maps that I don't normally include in my appraisal reports. I see a lot of graphs and verbiage and explanation and statistics and everything else. It looks pretty solid, right? I'm looking at the adjustments. I'm thinking, okay, kind of depends, but I can see that being supportable. And then I'm looking at the comparables and I'm thinking, holy cow, yeah, these things support a value of $250,000, and it hasn't been quite a year. And I came in at 40% less, 150,000, right? Again, not real numbers, but the ratios, it was 40% difference. I'll give you that much. And I thought, I'll be honest with you, my first thought was, maybe I screwed up. I mean, maybe I really royally made a mistake here, and I started questioning myself. And so this is what I did. The first thing I did was I went back to the drawing board and I pretended as if it was a clean slate. And I went back to the MLS system and the sales, and I went back and started researching comparables. And you've all done this, right? Appraisers are like this. They sometimes run into situations where you can get in pockets of value, okay? Meaning you've got a set of comps that kind of support this value, and you've got another set of comps that look like pretty good comps on the offset that support, I'm not going to say completely different value, but a different value, okay? And then this is where the real work of being a professional comes in. When you have to decipher what is the difference, when you have to discern, why do I have a pocket here that supports 150,000 and another pocket over here that on the offset looks like pretty good comps, but support a value of 250,000? By the way, I will pause and just say to you, there is a reason. There is a reason that a pocket sold for 150 and another pocket sold for 250. Now, there may be no reason if the pocket is much smaller. If you've got a pocket of comps that maybe support 150 and you've got a pocket of comps that maybe support 155. Okay. If you've got a tight pocket like that, there may be no reason other than it was Thursday and she liked the kitchen, right? And we've all seen those situations. But when you've got a discrepancy of 40%, there is a reason that there is a discrepancy. And you, as a valuation professional, it's your job to figure out why. It's your job to find out why is there a difference between these two. Okay, so I went in and started doing some investigation. The first step that I took after looking at glancing at this other appraisal and thinking, well, it looks like a pretty decent appraisal. I wonder if I really screwed things up, is I went back to the drawing board and I realized that, okay, first of all, this report is a year old. Now, has the market changed 40% in the last year? No, not at all. Okay. However, were there different comps to choose from then that there were now? Maybe. Okay, I'm going to get into that eventually. But for now, I want to make sure that I'm on solid foundation. I want to make sure that there's not a whole bunch of comps out there that support 250,000 that I completely missed. Okay, did Dustin Harris screw this up royally? And so the first thing I did was I went to the MLS and I started doing research. And at first, I came up with, 50 plus sales. Most of them were much lower than I had come in, okay? There was a pocket where I came in, and then there was a pocket on that higher end as well, and a few in between, okay? And so I thought, okay, all right, I see this. So there are definitely some comps on that higher end. Let's take a look at them. So I started really diving in deep, and this is where technology comes into play, when you can really start to look at Google Maps, when you can start to look at interior photos, when you can start to verify through real estate agents and say, hey, give me the scoop on this thing, what's really going on here. When you start to read the verbiage that's in the MLS sheets, as far as what kind of updates and other scenarios that might be important to the process, this is really where it gets important, appraisers. And this is really what separates the professionals from the, do I dare say the phrase, the checkbox monkeys? Okay. This is what separates the boys from the men, the girls from the women. Are you the type of appraiser who truly wants to figure things out? So I started looking at the comparables on the higher end. And with each and every one by one, there was about 6 or 7 of them, I went through and I clicked through each one and started looking through the details and started looking through where they sat. By the way, my subject was on a busy road across from a very busy shopping center. So keep that in mind. These either had superior, well, I'll just tell you, okay, sale 1 that this individual used was on a busy road, okay, looked like a pretty good comp. Until you look at the details and found out that, by the way, the subject is 70, 80 years old. And this comp was 90 years old on paper, until you start to read the details and it says that it was rebuilt 8 years ago. Yeah, completely rebuilt 8 years ago. I verified that with the agent. Okay. So yeah, sure. The appraiser made the comment that it was in good condition as compared to average/good for the subject. Okay. But a very minimal adjustment was made for such. Went on to, by the way, I did this with both the sales that I had pulled myself, so recent sales, and then I went back and started looking at the, I jumped the gun here just a little bit because now I'm starting to talk about the report itself. What had happened is I pulled the comps that were specific to my report, meaning they were recent sales, okay, within the last few months, and why was it that there were some on the 250 range? This is what I found. They were either located next to a university, so a much higher area. By the way, that's about a 20 to 30% difference in value next to a university area, and or they were completely remodeled in every single case. So then I started feeling a whole lot better about the comparables that we had chosen for our report. Of course, the next step is to go through this individual's report and the old appraisal. Again, I did not complete a review on it. It was not a full-fledged USPAP compliant review. It was simply information, and started looking through and finding out what had happened. Sale number 1, as I mentioned, was on a busy road like the subject, but it had been completely rebuilt in the last 8 years with a minimal adjustment from the appraiser. Sale number 2, located in an area with a nice view, also brand new, completely rebuilt, with granite countertops, I might say, which, by the way, the subject, if you could see the subject, think very much C4 verging on C5, okay, very much Q4 as far as if we're going to use UAD definitions. Sales 3, 4, and 5 that this individual used, all located in a university area, which is a much higher area. Distance-wise, not that far away. But I've been covering this area for 2 decades, folks, and I don't care how you look at it, it's always higher. You take 2 very similar homes, one in this university area and one just a mile away, and there's going to be a major difference in value. Do you think there was any adjustment for location? Not a chance. In other words, folks, on the offset, looking at the report, not too bad, right? It actually looks pretty decent. And I think any mortgage officer, any underwriter, any individual QC person that's just looking at the report itself, it actually looks like a pretty decent appraisal. But the devil is in the details. And the details are this appraiser ignored sales that he should have used and used sales that he shouldn't have used. I don't want to speculate as to why. If this was a refinance that he did, it was a refinance that I did, there's no purchase price to hit. The only thing I can guess, okay, and I'm going to venture a guess, sure, I'm just going to throw it out there. Is it possible that this individual is the go-to appraiser, the one that always hits the mark, if you will? I sure hope not. But it sure looks that way. I want to pause here and remind you that we are sponsored by ANOW software. ANOW, of course, is the ability to be able to manage all of your clients, to be able to manage all of your appraisals and your appraisers, and to be able to manage everything that goes on the analytical side, the numbers, if you will. Folks, are you a business owner or just an appraiser? ANow will help you to be the business owner that you need to be. Check them out. Go to anow.com/coach. One more time, it's anow.com/coach. All right, folks, welcome back. Glad to have you back on the program. Talking today, we're talking on a high level about just being a professional and doing the right thing. And then we're talking on a micromanage level, if you will, about a specific report that I did, an appraisal that I did, turned in, felt good about until the lender came back and said, whoa, what the heck? We had this thing appraised, not quite a year ago, and you're 40% different in value. You're 40% lower than this other appraiser. At first, I looked at his report. I thought, looks like a pretty good report until I started digging into the details. And folks, I don't want to use the word fraud, so I won't. But I'll tell you what, there's some real problems with this appraisal. And it doesn't look like it until you really understand the market. And this is the difference, folks, between a real estate professional and somebody who I think is playing a game. And that's the way to look. Well, here's the problem, okay? Here's the problem. Appraisers, let's say you are this person, okay? Or you're a person like this person, okay? I understand. I felt that pressure myself, okay? You want to be the appraiser that the lenders keep wanting to go back to over and over and over again, because let's face it, it puts more money in your pocket, it puts more volume. When things get slow for everybody else, they stay busy for you. I get it, folks, but you're not doing yourself or anyone else a favor. Okay? You're not. Can I tell you why? Can I tell you why? Folks, here's a problem, okay? 9 months ago when this appraisal was done, the individuals who lived in this property, and who still do, by the way, this is the same borrower now that it was before, think their house is worth $250,000. And therefore, they make decisions, financial decisions, based on that $250,000. Did they take cash out? I'll never know, but I would assume maybe. Okay? Maybe they did a cash out refi. Maybe they did a HELOC. I don't know. But it is very possible that they've now spent money that they didn't have. And they spent money that they didn't have because some appraiser was trying to get in good with some lender, was trying to look good by being very liberal with values. And it hurts the homeowner because now they're refining, and guess what? My appraisal's better than his. And I guarantee you put these things side by side in a court of law or before a state board, and I feel a whole lot more comfortable than I think this guy would be. When you start to really pick this thing apart, when you really start to get into the MLS details and talking to real estate agents and understanding the sales that he used, it falls apart very, very quickly. And he would have a hard time supporting what's going on here. It's sad, really, because here you've got a couple who is now refinancing, and the market really hasn't changed. If anything, it's probably bounced up a little bit in the last 9 months in my area. Here they are, ready to refinance again for whatever reason. I don't know. I wasn't given privy to that information, but here they are refinancing, thinking that's going to come in at least as much as they did before, and the value's not there. The value's not supported, and it's not because the market has changed 40% downward. It's because the idiot appraiser 9 months ago really screwed them over. That's number one. Number two, you ever heard of buybacks, appraisers? It happens. It happens. And appraisers really can get themselves in trouble if they can't support what they did years prior to the buyback. You're not doing yourself a favor. You're not doing the borrower a favor. You're not doing the loan officer a favor. You're giving yourself a bad name. You're giving the appraisers in your area a bad name. Folks, let me just be blunt with you, okay? There are a couple, I can think of two off the top of my head, local banks that will not use Dustin Harris, okay? Flat out. At least one of them, actually both of them. Yeah, I can confidently say both of them in private meetings have told me it's because I'm too conservative in my numbers, okay? Now, is it possible to be too conservative? Probably, okay? I don't know what appraiser would have, what motive they would have to be conservative, frankly. And I've heard it from others say, well, if you're conservative, then there's not going to be so much of a chance of a lawsuit down the line. Blah, blah. Okay, well, maybe. I don't know. But why not just be accurate? Why not be not conservative, not liberal in your valuation? How about just being accurate? How about just being precise in the way that you do your job? Because here's the thing. The appraiser 9 months ago put forth an appraisal that frankly is garbage. A loan was made. I presume a loan was made on that appraisal. The loan officer felt like the value was there. The borrowers feel like the value was there. And now here I come. And I'm not saying that I'm right and he's wrong, okay? I mean, judge for yourself. But I feel pretty darn good about my appraisal report, especially after giving it a hard second look. And I feel damn good about my report after looking at this other report. And I have to ask myself why. I have to ask myself, why would this appraiser do what he or she did? Well, it's a he. I'll have to give you that. Why did he do what he did? Now, the honest truth is I don't know this appraiser. I've heard his name. I've seen his name. I've maybe reviewed him in the past. He's not unfamiliar to me, but I don't think I've ever shaken his hand. I don't think I've ever met him face to face. I'd be glad to. Be glad to sit down and have a cup of coffee or lunch with this individual, but I never have. So I guess I can't speculate on the motives, but I know how this game works. I do. And the fact is if you go back 9 months ago, there were plenty of sales that were much more comparable to the subject property that this appraiser did not use. End of story. That should tell you the whole story right there. I don't think it's because he's stupid. I don't think it's because his MLS system wasn't working that day. I have to speculate that he ignored sales that he should have used and used sales that he shouldn't have used in order to justify an elevated value. And now he's hurt himself, and now he's hurt the lending institution who now wants to put together another loan for these people, hurt the homeowners themselves, hurt the economy. I mean, on a bigger scale, this is the crap that went on prior to 2008 that I thought we put a lid on, appraisers. Okay, now, again, some of you are saying, well, Dustin, don't talk about this on a public forum. Well, again, I'm talking to you appraisers, and I'm talking specifically to you bad apples, which don't listen to this program, unfortunately. So maybe I'm just talking to myself. Maybe I'm just talking to the wall. But appraisers, can we stop playing games, please? Can we stop being stupid? You're not helping yourself. You're not helping your fellow appraisers. You're not helping the homeowners. You're not helping the lending institutions. You're helping no one in playing this game. Support your values. Choose comps that are similar as possible. Don't ignore comps just because they don't tell the story that you want to be told. That's fraud, folks. I'm sorry, it is. I'm going to put that word out there. It's fraud. When you ignore sales that you should have used and you use sales that you shouldn't have, I don't know of any other word to use but fraud. You're fraudulently putting forth a value that shouldn't be out there. All right, have I been too harsh? I love y'all. It gets my dander up, if you will, when I see appraisers acting stupid. Let's not act stupid, okay? Let's keep forward. Again, I'm talking to the 1%ers out there. 99% of you guys are doing a great job. Keep it up, okay? And let's keep rolling forward. We've got a changing atmosphere out there as the evidence is showing, okay? The appraisal valuation surface is changing dramatically. Let's keep our integrity intact through this process. Let's continue to do what we do best, and that is value on a professional level. Thanks for joining me, folks, and we'll catch you next time.
You've been listening to the Appraiser Coach podcast with Dustin Harris. If you like what you hear, please give us a 5-star rating and post a short review on iTunes. For more in-depth insider information on how you can make more money as a real estate appraiser, visit theappraisercoach.com and sign up for the All-Star team today. Thanks for joining us. And now, get out there and create some value.